Welcome to the Squared Circle Gridiron. I am Don Wayne. To my right is Ricky. Below me is Ron. We have playoff football. We have 1 week left, and it's hard to fathom that we've only got 1 week left where we've got four teams. It gets this way every year, and I'm sad this time every year. Football is almost over. We had some hellacious football games to review. There were some shockers this weekend. There were some not so shockers. I did want to talk about something first before we start talking about the games. Rod, your Raiders are looking to hire Tom Telesco as the GM. That news is breaking right now. I know you were happy. I know you were happy with the head coaching hire. I can't imagine this hire is going to make you feel good as a Raiders fan. You're going to hire the Chargers trash heap? Come on. Talk to me, Ron.
Nope. Not happy at all. Not happy. He put the Chargers in salary cap hell.
He did.
Yeah. So why would the Raiders do that? Other than his draft history is good, I'll give him that. But man, no.
Who was he with before the Chargers? Where'd he come from?
I don't know.
I have no idea either. I just know he was with the Chargers for like 11 seasons.
Yeah.
And he has a losing record. And it's not been a very good.
Losing record, like Ron just said, salary cap issues. I just don't understand it. I don't know what.
He had trouble negotiating with players too. A lot of players left the Chargers because of him. So I don't, I don't understand it. Maybe because he has more.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me from a personnel grouping. They haven't. No. I don't know, man. It just didn't make any sense to me. I don't like the hire myself. I don't think it's putting the team in a positive direction. I don't think it's going in a positive direction with that move. I don't see where that solves all of the draft problems that the Raiders have had over the years. And God knows the Raiders draft in the past several years has been absolutely abysmal. Their track record is terrible. The last I want to say is that 2 or 3 drafts have just been complete busts. Am I wrong on that? Their tackles haven't worked out. I mean, it's been terrible.
No, it took almost the whole season for Tyrese Gibson to get going this past season, but at least he got going. I mean, their draft pick's been horrible.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Who was the last successful draft pick that the Raiders had, like high pick, in the last 5-10 years?
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Yeah, but that's it. Even he looked worn down this year. Carr was more than 10 years ago, I think now.
So I mean, you guys are definitely on point with the Raiders drafting.
Now, when Gruden first got there, he drafted an all-pro left tackle. He's been there ever since. He's been really good. But the right tackle that was it Leatherwood that they drafted a couple of years ago? That guy was a complete flop out the gate. That guy couldn't block anything.
He was a second-round grade, high second, low third-round grade. Yeah, they talk about reaching. They invented the word for reaching for draft picks, man. Even like Ceylon Farrell, who got traded to or got released, and then Niners picked him up and they released him, or he's not playing now. So one of the two.
Well, at least they got out of that mindset. It seemed like they were in for years where they would draft a number 1 wide receiver every year, and the kid never panned out.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that history.
Well, I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. It was god awful. I mean, it's not a good track record right now. There was another big shakeup today. Late last night, Brian Callahan got hired by the Titans as the new head coach. I know he's been a hot commodity the last couple of years because of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm gonna be honest, I've got reservations about that hire right out the gate because that's a very talented team. They've got weapons everywhere. I'm not truly sure how good he is as a coordinator. I know he's been a hot commodity. He's been a hot name. We'll see where this goes. Ricky, did you think this was a great hire? I'm not sure about this one.
Well, no, it's so weird because I was just talking about this. I was just talking about this point with somebody. Every year, you get all these offensive coordinators and these defensive coordinators, and they're big names, and they get put out there. All these guys, these names. Oh, this guy, and it's like these hype on these coordinators. Sometimes I think is way overblown, and I think this is a prime example. Like you touched on it, he came from Cincinnati. He had a lot of talent around him.
Right.
They had offensive weapons, and what have the Bengals done, right? I mean, I know you can always go on the flip side of that and say, oh, well, It doesn't, hey, put him somewhere else and he might. But do you think Tennessee has better offensive weapons than the Bengals did?
I'll say this. You want to
No.
know why I think they hired him? And this is just my 2 cents on this. I think they looked at him and saw what he's done with the quarterbacks he's had. Because even Cincinnati's quarterbacks have come a long way. I think that's why they brought him in. I think they said, look, we've drafted 2 quarterbacks the last 2 years in the second and third round. We need somebody who's going to groom the future of this team because it's clearly changing. The league is changing. We have got to have an offensive mind. This guy's been the hot commodity. He kept the Bengals competitive all the way down to the end. I get why they hired it, but it felt like maybe to me this wasn't the hot year you would hire this guy. I felt like last year he was a much hotter commodity. It just seemed, the timing just seemed weird to me. But I guess once they had that interview, they said, this is our guy. I mean, that's sort of how I see this. Ron, did you see anything I missed there?
Yeah, he came from the Rams. He's kind of known as like you said, as a quarterback whisperer. So he came from the Rams too, and he did a good job quarterbacks there. So one of the reasons why is Levis. They see potential in Levis. Now, I think it's a good hire just because they've had Vrabel for last 10 years.
No, I think it's only been about 6 or 7.
6 or 7, okay.
He wasn't there as long as people think. It just seems like it because he was in a lot of big playoff games. The biggest one, of course, being the victory over the Tom Brady his last year in the Patriots.
Yeah, so they've had this defensive-minded coach for the last 6 years, and their offense has struggled. Yeah, so I think they decided to go different this way, and plus, yes. So I heard something today about him having ties with T. Higgins now. T. Higgins is going to be a free agent.
Yes, I did. So I did hear about that he likes them very much, and they need a number 1 wideout because the wideout they drafted a couple years ago, I think he had like 16 catches this year or something god awful like that.
Yeah, Burks.
So it makes sense from that. If you're going to do the thing I don't know about Tennessee is who is their GM. Like it's a mystery to me. I have no idea.
Ron Catherine. He played fullback. He played for the fullback for the Niners in the 90s, 80s. And 90s.
I have not a clue who it is. Thanks everybody for joining us. We haven't said that already. It's been an exciting weekend of football. We're going to get into it here in just a second. Like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support. Speaking of the football games this weekend, before we start delving too deep, did you guys see the number on the playoff games this weekend? No. Did you hear it? 40 million on average watched each game on average. It is their highest number since 1988, meaning either this is the highest number ever or the highest since they started recording these numbers. That is absolutely floored me. I was blown away by it. I couldn't believe it was that many, but there were some really good quality games, and Sunday night left us wanting more. I'm excited to get into this, guys. There is one other little bit of tidbit before we get into this. We're going to talk about some coaching moves. Kyle Shanahan has denied that Christian McCaffrey has a quad injury because apparently that was making the waves today. And he came out and flat out said, no, he's fine. So keep your eye on that because it's the playoffs, boys, and you never know if somebody's trying to put one over on you or not. Let's start off with the Ravens. I don't want to delve into all the games. I don't want to have a play-by-play snap synopsis. But the one thing that stood out to me in this Ravens-Texans game, C.J. Stroud looked like a rookie to me. And look, for the first time I've seen that kid play all year, he looked like a rookie. He didn't look like the guy that I had seen for the previous 18 weeks, 19 weeks of the season. He looked like a rookie. And once again, the Ravens just counted way too much on Lamar Jackson to make a play when it counted the most. It was the Action Jackson show, just like Mr. Siegel just said. It was the Action Jackson show. If he didn't make the play, it did not happen.
Well, you know what? The fact is he did make the plays. And, Baltimore really, and we've been saying this now for weeks, Don, I know you've been real. He is their team, but he's making it go. He doesn't have the tight end that he's used to. He's improvising. And I'll tell you what, one thing I am so impressed with him about is he's staying within himself. He's staying within the game, and he's taking what's there. Now, maybe in years past, Lamar would have, threw the ball away, or he would have, made a bad run or something like that. But he's staying within his lane, and he's doing what is needed to get done. And I am impressed with Lamar Jackson. Highly impressed with him.
Oh, it's hard not to be. It's impossible not to be impressed with that young man. He is absolutely play. You know what it reminds me of? And I think I've said it before on this show. He reminds me of the 80s Broncos with John Elway. It was John Elway doing whatever he had to do to get the team done.
I'll tell you what, that is an excellent comparison. Excellent.
Ron, what you got, man? What else did you see in here? Because there's something in here. I'm wondering if you're going to talk about it. There's something that happened in this game. I want to hear you say it because you're always big on it.
No, well, penalties.
There
Penalties
it is.
One thing. I mean, they had 10?
11
penalties. But I'll say this about C.J. Stroud. Yes, he did look like a rookie, but he did outplay Lamar Jackson in the first half. In the second half, he just deer in headlights. And without a running game, how can they do anything? They need an elite runner.
Yeah. No. Well, it looked to me like they didn't even throw it that much. It was just the time of possession in the second half was just critical. They could not move the ball on first downs. And when they needed to get a stop, they did the stupid 5-yard penalty holding type yards. Like it wasn't egregious. It was just they kept doing it over and over again. It kept the Ravens' momentum going in the game because the overall numbers on this game were not impressive. Lamar didn't throw for 200 yards, but he did run for 100 yards again.
Yeah.
Like it's if you go inside the numbers, that's one thing. I don't want to delve into it. But when I'm watching this game, the Ravens did not look crisp, and it looked like it took them an entire half to really wake up and get back in football mode. It didn't look like they were ready for the playoffs to be going into this. And I got news for you. Next week, that ain't going to cut it, boys. That ain't going to cut it.
No. And they do have a tight end with Likely. I really like the way Likely plays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I was talking about Andrews. I mean, I think Likely does a fantastic job. I'll tell you one thing that stood out to me was Baltimore didn't have any sacks.
No,
you're right.
No,
they didn't.
Because Stroud could run for his life. I mean, Stroud is good in that pocket and getting away from everything. Like there's no denying that.
I'll say this: the final score was 34-10, but the Ravens didn't beat them that bad. It was closer than the final score. A lot.
It was not. It was not. It was just they made plays after they had the penalties. And there was no big. That's what I'm saying. When you look at the stats of this game, there's just nothing that grabs your eyes and goes, "Wow, that's amazing." They really did something crazy. It didn't look like the typical Ravens game. It didn't look like the typical crisp defense out the gate. The special teams, which Harbaugh really prides himself on, gave up that long punt return that suddenly sparked Houston back into it. To look at the final score, you'd never know this was 10-all tied going into it.
Right.
The weather, it was cold. That was affecting both of them. It looked to me, and Ron, I want to ask you this. Did it look to you like maybe Stroud got some happy feet there in that second half? Because he was not hanging out in that pocket.
No, he got a lot of happy feet. But when he's getting surrounded by purple giants, I'd have happy feet too, you know?
I mean, I'd have been running. Look, I can't take anything away from it. It's a kid.
No.
He's a 22-year-old kid.
That's the point that I was just going to make was I think for him going forward, he'll use that as a gauge for himself and say, hey, I don't have to do this next time. I could stay in here for maybe 1 or 2 seconds longer. I could see if there's another read. But I just think for him, he just hasn't seen it all yet. So he's building his resume. But I don't think this is the last time we see him in the playoffs.
There was something else that happened in this game that caught my attention. I'm not sure if it caught y'all's or not. The lack of weapons that the Texans have on offense now that they've lost all those players got hurt this season. They lost a bunch of rookies that were playing lights out football, and they lost them all. And it just seemed like they started doubling their number one wideout, and there was nothing left they could do. The tight end is okay, but he's not going to change the game for you. And he's also not a great blocker. So when he comes in, it sort of tips your hand that they're going to throw the ball. At least that's the way I took it.
Yeah, next year they'll Tank Dell back. I think with Tank Dell back, a good running, nothing against Singletary, but they need an elite running back because if you have an elite running back, they have to bring the people up to the box, and that opens up the passing game. I mean, that's common sense, football common sense. Look at any of the teams that are out there right now; they're still in the playoffs. They all have a good running game.
I do have good news about this draft too for the Texans. I know they don't have a first round pick, but you know what this draft has? It is deep at wide receiver. And you can get wide receivers aplenty on day 2 in this draft, and you can get good ones. It's not just top heavy. I saw a report today from Mel Kiper and some of the other pundits. They showed that there were 4 wide receivers worthy of first round grades. They said there were 14 total players in this draft worthy of a first round grade. I don't know if you guys keep up with that statistic. I know guys get picked in the first round, but there's an actual grade that these guys use to tell them if they're worth a first round pick or not. And there was also a fourth quarterback in his mock draft today from Mr. Mel Kiper. You guys want to take a guess? Take a guess.
Bo Nix.
Was
Bo
not
Nix.
Bo Nix.
J.J. McCarthy.
Well, let Ricky go. You're throwing
Well, no. That's okay. No, because I'm sitting here trying to think of quarterbacks. Penix, Williams, McCarthy. Who was the
Penix.
Duke Blue Devils quarterback?
No, he's going to Duke. He's going to Duke. He's going to a Notre Dame. He transferred to Notre Dame.
Oh, he transferred?
Leonard. Yeah, Leonard. I'm looking forward to seeing that kid next year.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody.
It's McCarthy. He had McCarthy going in the first round. Middle first round, it wasn't Denver. Denver, he had taken the UCLA pass rusher. Dan, yes, they had Dameon Pierce's season when the season started, but you got to start to wonder if that kid was a one-year wonder because he just didn't look the same this year. I don't know if he was injured early in the season, but anybody that was watching him in fantasy football knows he was not producing anything early in the season. So I don't know what they're going to do there.
I think that's interesting for McCarthy. I think his stock definitely rose because Michigan winning the national title. I mean, he didn't play awesome, but I just think with that pedigree,
he made plays.
Yeah. And that's what you want in the NFL. I mean, you could coach that up. So, that might not be a bad idea somewhere in the late, third round, second round, whatever. Some team snatches them up and their starting quarterback gets injured. He comes in and, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious because he was really high on his arm strength, which I didn't get to see a whole lot. Maybe it's just me because Michigan did not have a lot of speed at wide receiver. No. They just didn't. It was a cram it down your face. He was high on his arm strength. I didn't see it. I'm looking forward to seeing this go to the combine. Anyway, that'll be here in a couple of weeks. We'll be talking some NFL draft. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to talking about this San Francisco game because I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but people were shitting all over Brock Purdy after this game, and I didn't get it. Maybe it's just me. I didn't get it. He didn't look great. The weather was not good. He tried it without a glove. He tried it with the glove. He just couldn't get a good grip on the football. And correct me if I'm wrong, but did he not lead the team down the field in the last 2 minutes of the game on a game-winning touchdown score? Did he not do that? Did I miss something here? What am I missing in this, guys? Because people were trying to just crush this kid. I'm high on Purdy. I think he's a good player. I also think he's got a lot of talent around him. But this was not the best conditions to be playing a football game. I don't have a clue what's going on with people ripping on this guy. Ron, I got to hear from you.
I think they're ripping on because he couldn't throw the ball. They said he couldn't throw the ball, but like you said, they let him down the field. He made the pass that he made, but he's struggled. He's also struggled in bad weather beforehand. So they're almost.
I mean, it's San Francisco this time of year, yeah.
But in earlier in the season, he struggled in bad weather. So they're making a bigger deal out. They're making a big deal out of nothing. Period. But
So you were concerned about it at all? So is what you're saying?
No.
You took it the same way I was.
Yeah. Now, his efficiency goes down a little bit once Debo goes out, and there's I wish I would have kept the stats on that, but it's a pretty good a different line when Debo Samuels is playing when he's not playing.
Yes, it is. I saw those stats earlier. I wish I'd kept them, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Purdy did a really nice job. He found his receivers. He throws to different guys. People say, "Oh, his arm." He does. Look, I don't want a quarterback that throws it 50 yards downfield. That's not what their offense is.
No.
Well, here's the thing. Do you know that he was ninth this season, right? He was ninth all time in yards per completion average. So for people saying he wasn't whipping it down the field all season, you weren't watching this guy play clearly because he was ripping it down the field all season.
Look, I'll tell you what's an importance, and I don't want to get into like numbers either, but like to me, when you don't throw any interceptions, that's key. That's a key. Right. That's a key stat.
It is.
Right now, the other quarterback, Love, he had 2 big interceptions. So.
I wanted to talk about that. That one at the end of the game drove me nuts. That's something that he's not a
You just
rookie.
can't. Yeah,
you
can't do
cannot
that.
throw across the field on second
just-
down with 50-something seconds left in the game. It's second down.
He was trying to create something that just wasn't there. And I think the second it left his hand, he probably knew it. And that was just, I mean, terrible throw, terrible play. You can't make that play at that time. You just can't do that.
Now part of that is on LaFleur, because LaFleur has given him just full reign to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
So part of that is on, because if LaFleur had given the full reign and the power to do that, then he probably wouldn't have done that.
But did he, though, or was that just something Love did on his own because he was like, I got to make a play? Because that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the coach giving him reign, right? Like saying, hey, go out and be a quarterback, go out and be you. And I'm sure Love has his, I'm sure he goes out and does freestyle, but you can't make that throw, even if you have autonomy,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, that's the throw you can't make. That's the throw I can't see in you. That's the throw that if you're a rookie, I expect. You're not a rookie anymore. You're leading this team. And it looked to me, maybe it's just me. I mean, Green Bay stayed in the game. I have no idea how, because their offense was paltry. They did nothing well in this game. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They had one big run out of Aaron Jones, if you guys remember that. Other than that, it was like 17 carries for 50 yards. He went nowhere. It was like running into a wall every time. I have no idea how they kept in this game. Even now, I'm sitting here looking at the numbers. It's just the penalties weren't terrible for San Fran, but it was a good bunch of yards, 6 for 83. When I watched this game, I don't know, it was a weird game for me to watch as a fan, because I never felt like San Francisco should lose this game, but I'll be damned if it didn't look like they were trying to give it away at times.
Now, did they have like 4 or 5 pass interference calls on them?
Yeah, that was a 6 for 83. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why Green Bay got kept in the game, was those.
It definitely kept it going. I was I'll be interested in this game this weekend. And yes, that's exactly right. The 2 terrible PIs by San Francisco is what kept the ball doing. And that's what I mean. Like, they just kept shooting themselves in the foot to keep the other team in the lead in the game, it felt like. Just over and over again. I don't know. Maybe it was nerves. Maybe it's because, and by the way, this is the first come from behind win by a Shanahan coach team.
Yeah.
That stat was mesmerizing to me. When I saw it, I was like, that's right. Yeah. Between the Falcons and these Niners, my man, because he can play with a lead, he just can't take it back in the fourth quarter. So
I'll tell you what, I am impressed with Fred Warner. He's a hell of a player for San Fran.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, man, the guy's a tackling machine.
He makes plays, man. That dude makes plays.
He's all over the field. He is all over the field.
Yep, absolutely.
This takes us to our other NFC showdown, Detroit and Tampa. And this game, man, I tip my hat right now. You got to tip your hat to them, man, right? But this team, their secondary is ass. It's just terrible. And I don't know how that's going to – unless Brock Purdy is missing his number one weapon again this weekend, I have a feeling he's going to let this air out all over Detroit. We'll get to that in a minute. But once again, Baker Mayfield had his career resurrected this season, throwing it all over the field. I mean, he was chucking it, man. The running game was pretty solid. It wasn't great, but it was solid. This was absolutely way better than it had a right to be. I was excited at the end of this game. I was nervous about it because it was slow to start. When it was 10-10 at halftime, and then the second half, it wasn't exactly – it was answer for answer. Right? That's what kept this. It's so intriguing. It was, oh no, Detroit just scored. I think they're going to check out now. Here came Baker Mayfield right back at you. I was so impressed with this game. Baker Mayfield has had his career resurrected in Tampa Bay. I hope he stays there. Did you guys see the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay is now getting calls about head coaching positions?
Really?
Yes, there are teams calling him right now.
I also saw that the Vikings and other teams are interested in Baker Mayfield.
I want to get into all of that in a little bit here. I'm going to cover this first. Larry, who is a huge Saints fan, there is no such thing as pass interference. That will forever live in Saints.
Shut up, Larry. God.
Where's Where's Ron going?
He's
he
got the
leaving?
ghost back. The ghost came back.
I thought he was leaving.
No,
I
that's what's in Larry's living in Larry's head that came back. Jeez, let it go, brother.
But hey, guys, we're sitting here talking about end of game throws. We got on Stroud's case, or his case. Baker can't make that throw at the end there. That interception that's terrible. He can't make that throw. I mean, he really did have a good game. He plays with guts. You know, he gives you he definitely empties his tank, but he can't make that throw.
He was also under pressure this whole game.
He definitely was.
My man was running for his life from the moment the gun sounded. That dude was running for his life everywhere.
Yeah, Hutchinson had 4 sacks by himself.
Yeah, I was just going to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
just came alive. And I agree, he can't make that throw. But here's the other part that I didn't get. Did you guys understand why they went for 2 after they scored the last touchdown they scored in the game?
I'm glad that you brought that up. I
don't
understand why they did that. Why would you do that?
Nobody understood. I guess they figured
if you get the extra point, you're only down by 7 now.
Yes.
If you don't get it,
what are you doing?
If you don't get it, obviously you have to now get a touchdown and the 2-point conversion again. I didn't understand what the thinking was of that.
No, I didn't either.
Sometimes I think coaches get into a game and they start out thinking themselves. This was a prime example of that. It made no sense when they did it. I don't understand why they did it. It was the wrong time to do it. Everything about this entire move made no sense. So I don't know, man. I know right now everybody's a big Lions fan. Everybody wants the Lions to shock the world and finally win one for Detroit. We're going to get into that in a minute. If they can't, look, it's weak. You know, it's the third game of the playoffs. If they haven't fixed the secondary, they're not going to fix it now. So I've got major concerns about that secondary.
Yeah.
You know who I don't have major concerns about?
What?
Them Chiefs. I got no concerns.
Wait, let's go back up real quick. Real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
But you said the Lions didn't have a running game. I think Gibbs had.
No, I said they don't have a pass secondary.
Okay, I thought you said they didn't have any yards running because I was gonna say because Gibbs had 7 carries for.
No, Gibbs was the guy they had. He's a beast.
Okay.
Him and Montgomery are a fantastic 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Well, Montgomery was a grinded out type of guy this time. I think his longest was 11 yards. So he had 9 carries for 22 yards minus that. He couldn't get anywhere in the hole either. Like they were grinding him down.
I'll tell you what though, that's a nice thing to have because they could pound you with Montgomery and then all of a sudden Gibbs just breaks it loose.
I
agree.
You know, it's in the bottom half of the yardage thrown, like the per yards is Goff.
Yeah. Because everything is dude.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about it again, but this offensive coordinator, he's getting a lot of looks right now for head coaching. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but he's a hot candidate. He's a hot candidate, and the Texans have got a hot candidate offensive coordinator. Because you cannot look at Stroud and not go, that coach saw something and figured out how to get the best out of this rookie for all these weeks. So that's, I'm looking forward to seeing some of this talk about in a minute. The Bills are wide right again. Wide right once again for this franchise that cannot get over the hump, that cannot win a game when it matters the most, that cannot beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I went 4-0 this weekend, and I bet against the Bills because this is what I thought they were. They are a team that cannot rise to the moment right now. And I don't know if it's Josh Allen. I don't know if it's the head coach. They can win in the regular season against the Chiefs. They can win in the preseason against the Chiefs for all I care. But when it gets to the playoffs, they cannot overcome their obstacles. They cannot overcome their shortcomings. They cannot get a consistent pass game. They cannot beat the Chiefs. This is who they are. And I cannot believe I'm going to say this. Remember when Tony Dungy kept getting to the playoffs with Peyton Manning year after year, and they lost year after year, and then they fired him? No, I'm sorry. Tony Dungy, he won the Super Bowl, but he kept losing, right? It was the Bucs. It's the Bucs, sorry. He was losing with the Bucs year after year, year after year, year after year, and then they brought him over to the Indianapolis Colts, and he won, right? That's how it was. He lost year after
Right.
year after year after year. Go over to the Colts, he lost. That's sort of how this feels, right? This head coach is sort of like Tony Dungy. He's been on this team forever. He can play, he can coach, but when it comes to this moment, he cannot get past that moment like Tony Dungy had with the Bucs. Because if you remember, when Tony Dungy left, Gruden came in, they won the Super Bowl the next year. That's indisputable. Same team, same everything. They won the Super Bowl. It's one of those deals where I'm looking at what this team is, and I'm really starting to be concerned. Is this coach the right guy for this team anymore? They had to change the offensive coordinator mid-season, right? That's hard to come back from. And Josh Allen thrived under this new system. I like this coach. I don't want it to sound like he's not a good coach, but this is not working.
Yeah, sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's just time to move on after 6, 7, 8 years. You've got to, he's taken them as far as he can go. It doesn't mean that McDermott isn't a good coach. I'm not saying that either. But like you said, sometimes a coach, and we see it all the time in the NFL, Andy Reid took the Eagles as far as he could go, right? You take them, and you keep hitting that wall. I could name other coaches. And sometimes it just takes to bring a new coach in or new coaches in. And, I look at the Buffalo Bills and I don't see, I look at Stephon Diggs. He was a no-show. Now, he's sort of been again, right? Now, is that by design? Is that by that game he wasn't getting open against the Chiefs defenders? I mean, there's a lot of factors, but the Bills couldn't really get downfield. I thought Josh Allen did a nice job. I mean, he carried the team as far as he could go. I just didn't think Buffalo had enough offense, So, yeah, like you said, maybe it's time for a coaching change. And it doesn't mean that McDermott isn't a good coach. It's just, this is just the NFL. And sometimes things get stale and you got to start over.
Yeah, you're right. All-American headbanger. Those smoke and mirrors are D. Especially
a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Now, I think sometimes I like McDermott too. But does it get to the point where the players just get tired of hearing it because they're not getting over the hump too?
I think so. Yeah.
But then there's the fact that they don't have a legit number 2 that take the pressure off Diggs too. I mean, Gabe Davis is supposed to be number 2, but
here we go. I knew you were gonna say it.
But he's inconsistent. So how's he reliable number 2? You know what I mean?
That dude disappears not for a play or two, but for games where you don't even see that guy, man. You don't even see that guy, and I don't.
I was just going to bring this up.
He didn't have a catch. He didn't have a reception.
I thought he was hurt, and I don't think he was. He didn't have a reception.
If he was, I didn't know.
No, Gabe Davis was out. Yeah, Gabe Davis was out. Yeah, he was out. Okay. Yeah, he was out.
Okay, I didn't say. I didn't see him on the field.
And I'm not going to pretend to be a Bills fan, but I'm going to say this. Yeah. I've seen Gabriel Davis play enough. I've had him in fantasy football enough to know the dude goes MIA for weeks at a time to where it's 2 catches for 8 yards. It's 2 catches for 15 yards. And then suddenly it's 7 for 130 and 2 touchdowns. You're like, where the hell's that guy been for the last 4 weeks?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do feel like they've got a great tight end developing on that team. I feel like they've got Kincaid seems like he is on the way up as far as being the true number 2 target. I believe Stephon Diggs is a free agent this season, is he not?
No, he's got a year. No, he's got a year left.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought he was a free agent after this one.
Yeah. No.
I'll tell you what, I do like that young kid Shakir that they have. I think he's blossoming into a nice wide receiver.
But he can't. He's not number 1 or number 2. He's like a number 3.
I don't know if Diggs is. Yeah. I don't know if Diggs is going to be back. The Bills might move on from him.
That's what I was saying. Like the way it was sounded. Yeah, he does have one more year, but the way it was sounded, and they were talking the last couple of days, it almost feels like he's already a foregone conclusion to be cut.
Well, I was reading something, and they were talking, and I thought this was his last year, but then they were talking about, we'll just trade him, or there was like rumors traded. Well, you trade him to whoever. What do you think you could get for him? Honestly, what do you guys think you could get for Diggs? A third at the most?
I'm looking right now.
Maybe a second.
I'm looking right now.
Maybe a third.
A third?
He signed a 4-year contract extension that runs through 2027.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
really,
but And yes, I know Gabe's going to be a free agent, but the way they've been talking on the TV the last couple of days,
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on? Is Stephon Diggs not going to be back? That's how the talking heads were making it sound like it was a foregone conclusion. This guy's gone.
That was my
That's just-
understanding.
yeah.
I thought he was gone. But anyway,
I think because he gets to that point where he goes quiet.
yeah.
And so once he goes quiet, like with Minnesota, he all of a sudden he just went quiet, and then just then he got traded. So I think he's being quiet right now. He's not talking to the media. He's trying to just, I guess, take everything in.
Right.
And then people are saying he lost a step. I don't think so.
Well, I have looked up the
so.
contract myself on Stephon Diggs. All American says Diggs isn't going anywhere.
Yeah,
it
I don't
appears
think
so. But I swear to hear these guys on TV talk about it the last 2 days. I was like, what the hell is going on with Stephon Diggs? What am I missing right now? I thought it was weird they were talking about it. So anyway, we got our matchups now. We got our it is a talking heads, just talking out of their ass. We got our matchups, boys. I went 4-0 last week. 4-0. I put a little $25 wager on it. Won a little over 100. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm gonna let it ride this week.
Nice, brother.
I'm taking the Niners, and I'm taking the Chiefs. Rod, what do you got?
I got the Lions and I got the Chiefs.
Oh, the Chiefs? Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not see that coming.
Just experience-wise, in the pressure situation of a championship game, I think that's where they get it.
I'll give you my reasoning. I took the Niners because I keep talking about the Lions secondary. That Lions secondary scares me going into San Francisco if the weather's not going to be a factor. I don't think it's going to be a factor. I don't know that they can cover all those weapons on that back end, considering how bad that secondary is. And if it's going to get into a shootout, I like my chances with the Niners more than I do going with the Detroit Lions. And the reason I like Kansas City is for the reason I talked about a minute ago. The entire Ravens offense revolves too much around what Lamar Jackson can do, and they just don't have enough weapons to help him out at times, I feel. And here's the other thing. I honestly believe Kansas City is going to put a spy on Lamar Jackson, unlike the Houston Texans, who did not do that.
So, yeah, sure? Or did your wife tell you have to take Kansas City?
No.
So in my heart, I would love to see the Lions beat San Fran. In my head, I don't think that happens. I think San Fran's defense clamps down and they get after Goff. In the other game, I want to take Baltimore. I like Lamar. I want to see them get to the Super Bowl. But my head tells me Kansas City's well coached. They're well seasoned. They got Patrick Mahomes and they have Kelsey. Baltimore doesn't have Patrick Mahomes or Kelsey. And I think that's going to be the X factor with Andy Reid coach in Kansas City. I think it's going to be a Kansas City, San Francisco Super Bowl.
Is there anyone in the league better at halftime adjustments than Andy Reid the past 5 years now? Is there anybody even remotely close to adjusting on the fly the way that guy does? Because I'm going to tell you, he blows me away with his halftime adjustments. He comes out sometimes and he's got a completely different game plan for that first scripted set.
Even Spagnuolo too. In the second half, the
defense. He's done really well.
Yeah.
And he comes off of the Andy Reid tree, Spags.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. So just to backtrack 15 years ago, when Andy Reid was with the Eagles, the talk around here, I don't know if you guys heard this, but it wasn't just talk. It was, you saw it with your eyes. He wasn't a good game time adjuster. He couldn't make adjustments.
Yes. That's what I remember hearing.
On the fly or halftime, anything. That was the knock. That was the criticism against him for years. And I saw it firsthand. But Don, to answer your question, in the last 5 years, has there been a better coach to make those kind of adjustments? I don't think so. Hey, I'll put it to you this way. Last year, the reason why they beat the Eagles were beating them up in the first half. The reason why Kansas City won was because of the coaching, Andy Reid.
It was insane. It was insane.
That to me was probably the best adjustments halftime wise, coming out doing a completely different thing that I've ever seen. They caught the Eagles flat on those 2 plays where they hit the receiver wide open. It was a busted coverage, but that's caused the coaches probably saw something and they changed a couple things up, and that's why Kansas City beat the Eagles last year.
Dan asks a great question. Is this the end for Andy Reid?
No.
No way.
You got
no,
really?
No way. No
okay.
Way. No
all
way.
right.
No,
All right. Hold on.
no.
Hold on.
No
Here. Ron just said to hell that he ain't playing no more. Hear me out on this.
Hey, yo, Ron, get back here, buddy.
Hear me out on this, okay? There was rumors last year everywhere that Andy Reid is seriously looking at retiring here in the next few years if he gets another Super Bowl.
Okay.
It's not just hearsay. They're saying he may legitimately walk away from the game. You got to remember, Andy Reid's not a young buck. I think he's damn near 70 years old.
No, he's pushing 60.
Are you sure? I thought he was closer to 70.
No, I'm positive.
Well, he just looks old as shit then.
He's
coaching will wear you out, dude.
Well, listen, he's been around for 25. He's been coaching he started with the Eagles in 1999, so that's 25 years.
He'll be 66 this year. He'll be 66, so he's getting close to 70.
You're close. Oh shit! All right, yeah.
I thought he was that old. I thought he was getting up there in age. And
hey,
like I was saying to Ricky, I'll say this to Ricky, Ron. There were rumors last year that he was going to leave if they won another Super Bowl. And apparently he got talked back into coming back. I don't know this was the rumor, right? If he wins another one or gets to another one, he's 66 years old this year. You can't keep doing this forever.
Right. If that happened, you think Eric Bieniemy would step in?
I don't know that Bieniemy has not seen the last head coaching opportunity he's going to get with that debacle he had in Washington this year. That did not do him any favors.
Interesting.
That's interesting that you bring up his name, Ron, because if Andy Reid did step down, I think that would be the most likely candidate to bring Bieniemy back. He knows the offense. He knows Mahomes.
I think they'd promote the defensive coordinator myself.
Okay, I'm not saying no to that. I'm just saying I could see a scenario where they would bring Bieniemy back. I mean, yeah, it was a debacle in Washington, but Kansas City's a totally different animal.
Right. No,
Washington's
I agree.
Debacle.
Well, Washington is a debacle. They did hire their new GM. They're going through the head coaching process. I have heard that Washington is really high on the Detroit offensive coordinator. That's the guy that they seem to be circling their wagons around. I'm excited to see where this goes. See, here you go. Even Mike said he's hearing that Andy Reid is gone after the season, according to Dan Patrick.
Huh.
See, this rumor's been going around for a while. Andy Reid's had some behind-the-scenes issues with his family, as you know. His son his son's issues.
That's been going. I mean, that was shit. That was back when he was with the Eagles. There was issues. I mean,
So keep your ears on, boys, because we're not done out of this yet. And also, go ahead.
Well, I'll just add real quick. Listen, let's just say Kansas City wins the Super Bowl. Andy Reid gets another one. What's that? 3, right?
That'd be 3.
That would be 3. What else do you have to prove at your age? 66 years old, 3 Super Bowls.
You're a Hall of Famer, coach. I mean, walk away.
And see, all right, let me ask you guys this, right? In the last 25 years, who's it's
Belichick and Andy Reid. It's Andy Reid and Belichick.
Right,
Hands
right.
down.
I mean,
I would hate to see him leave, but I would hope he'd enjoy himself. The coaching carousel continues. I thought by now we would have seen Atlanta seal the deal on Bill Belichick. I thought that was going to be done. They flew him back last week for another interview. Apparently, they're keeping their options open. Someone has talked, Arthur Blank off the edge and saying, "Hey, hold on, man. Do you really want to go all in on a 70-something-year-old head coach when you need another quarterback? Like, do you really? Is this really the route you want to go right now? Because the NFL is becoming a young man's league."
Don, you just took. I was just going to say that, and listen, it's not a knock against Bill. Oh my God, the guy's obviously one of the greatest coaches ever. But I don't think that would be a good hire for Atlanta. I just don't. I don't think that they're ready for that. You know what I mean? I just don't. If Bill was 15 years younger, maybe, but
if he was 15 years younger, they'd be beating the doors down to get him.
Yeah,
everybody would.
No, I just think I think Atlanta. If I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, I tell you what, they have some really nice pieces there. So I think they need to get this right. This coach now, because they got some nice pieces there that you want to get these players while they're still in their prime. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
I think getting that right coach right now is very important for them because they're not super far away. It's not like they're a bottom feeder. They have talent. In my personal opinion, I don't think Belichick is the right guy there.
No, I don't think so.
All-American Headbanger says it won't happen, but he'd love to see Belichick to Buffalo. That could be a scary marriage. That could be a scary marriage. That could be instant Super Bowl team right there. Tom Brady, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. He's going to be 72 years old this year, guys. You guys realize he's going to be 72? Like all the greats that we grew up watching, their time is coming to an end. I haven't even heard Pete Carroll's name sniffed by anybody as far as head coach.
Nobody.
He hasn't even been on a list that I've read anywhere in the NFL. It just feels like it's time to start moving on, getting some new blood in this.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think, whether it's Nick Saban at Bama, whether it's Belichick, Pete Carroll, now we're talking about Andy Reid. We're talking about men who are 65 and older, 70 and older, and I think a lot of these teams realize that. A lot of these teams see that, and they want to bring in younger guys. It's just part of the cycle of things.
Yeah. And plus, the younger guys can relate a little bit more to the players coming in, too.
Yeah.
I do have one other little tidbit of information to drop on you guys. Have you heard the latest on the Kirk Cousins rumors? Damn it, he said, I'm out again. Rod's just dying to get the hell out of here.
No, that wasn't me.
Did you hear the latest on Kirk?
To answer your question, what I did hear was that Minnesota might not bring him back.
I have heard that if Belichick does sign with Atlanta, that's where he's going.
Oh. I heard that too.
That's interesting. Interesting.
That'd be actually perfect.
Dan says Pete Carroll just threw his name in the the Chargers camp. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh is going to come monkey stomp his ass over that one.
Yeah.
I think Jim Harbaugh, and I want to get to that next, but go ahead. From what I've heard, Kirk Cousins to Atlanta, it makes sense.
I'll tell you, that would be a quarterback that you could drop in that offense.
Yeah.
And you could make that offense go. They would be a scary offense with Cousins there. Now, I don't know how healthy he is, coming off that injury. But if you drop him in there and he's the Cousins that we saw at the beginning of the year, that makes Atlanta a pretty good team on paper.
Now, okay, they drop him in there, but who's the OC? If the OC is crap, we've seen what happens when OCs are crap.
We saw. I don't know if you guys have read about it because we talked about it, I think, last week. But supposedly Belichick and his boy McDouche, are combo deal coming in. Like he's coming in there with McDouche. He's going to run his offense.
Now that would be something.
Something to pay attention to, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm thinking about it. Especially with Atlanta, you bring a quarterback over, a veteran quarterback. That might not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, you got two stud running backs. You got a stud wide receiver who's been underused. You got a stud tight end.
Yeah, hire Belichick. He coaches there. Let's say he coaches there 2 years, right? 2 years, 3 years at the most. You got McDaniels waiting in the wings if the team does well.
No.
Damn it, Ricky. What are you doing?
No.
You don't fly the plane into the mountain, Ricky. Jesus.
You're fired.
I'm not a fan of McDaniels at all. I was just making a point. Terrible I don't
point.
Like him. Terrible. Sorry, Ronnie. Sorry.
I'm going to move on to the last big story of the week. Jim Harbaugh is meeting with the Chargers again for the second time. I read today it was all but done. That's what I read. I don't know if you guys saw this as well. That was the report that came out at around 2:00. Said this deal was all that's done.
Yeah,
he is coming in. And there's something else to think about. They have not hired a GM. Remember what I said last week? That wherever he goes, he's going to want to have say in the personnel matters. They have not hired the GM. Usually the GM hires the head coach. Usually. In this position, they don't have a GM. This is a Harbaugh hire. It makes sense to me. I think he's going to go there.
Well, that's interesting because the Chargers GM is now interviewing with the Raiders.
I know.
Yeah. So maybe he's out of there because he knows something that he knows Harbaugh's
Well, he got fired. He got fired.
He got
Same
fired.
week he got fired with the head coach. Yeah.
Well, that tells me maybe there is a little something there. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying it makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
To me, it makes a lot of sense. Like it's too easy of a marriage. You've got a pro level quarterback. You can get rid of a lot of cap space. You've got an early draft pick. You can get one of those stud wide receivers early while you rework one of your guys' contracts. They can also take that tight end who's going to be sitting there. There are options for this Chargers team. I feel like they have underperformed greatly under the last regime, and Harbaugh just feels like the natural fit.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely.
It'd be good.
Well, that's all I got for today, fellas. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to get into?
No, I'm looking forward to the championship games, and
I'm looking forward to
it.
I can't wait either. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Please like and subscribe. We really appreciate your support, and see you next week.
Gentlemen, have a good night, guys.
All right, bye.